Hello, this is Mocha Product Manager Martin Brennan with a look at what's new in Mocha Pro 2023. This release of Mocha Pro focuses mainly on making life easier in your day-to-day workflow. We've developed roto, tracking, and rendering tools that assist the features you use all the time. First up, we have a new batch of spline operations to make the thrilling job of rotoscoping much less time-consuming. We now have a new fall-off tool to adjust splines more organically, using an effective radius and strength to pull adjacent points. This is especially useful for moving large areas of points when you're doing big roto changes. The fall-off tool has been designed to only affect the spline edge you're currently working on, so tight shapes or other contours are not manipulated across gaps. It's now possible to shrink and grow splines based on the edge angle rather than scaling. This makes it much easier to choke or expand matte areas around the edge of more varying shapes without having to tweak individual points to match the scale evenly. Similarly, you can now adjust matte feathering by offsetting the inner and outer edge uniformly. Previously, adjusting an edge could only happen by manually adjusting the inner edge and then using the edge width for feather. Now you can position the feather edge and adjust inwards for better control. If you have been working on a large shape and want to break it out into more manageable chunks, you can now use the split contour option. This cuts out any selected points into a new layer, retaining all keyframes from the original. For example, this is very helpful for breaking down body roto when you realise that arm you've been working on is going to get a bit difficult. You can select the area you want to break off, choose split contour, and a new layer is created. Now you can continue working as though you'd made two shapes all along. Alternatively, if you want to start from scratch at a new point in time, you can use the snapshot duplicate function to create a copy of your existing layer at that frame. This new layer clears away all keyframes, but importantly it retains the same shape and position as where you duplicated it from. This is very handy if you need to break up your track into sections or want to start your work from a different place but don't want to redo your spline. This option will also copy the exact placement of the surface in the previous layer, making it easy to line up tracking data across multiple layers. Additionally, if you just want to redo a section of keyframing, in the past you either needed to delete your keys individually or use the dope sheet to wipe out the section you needed. Now you can delete all keys forward or backwards from the playhead, making it much easier to clean up. You can now also quickly add shapes by double-clicking the tool. The size of the shape created can be adjusted in preferences, but the default is 20% of the image size. Holding down the Shift key will create a uniform shape. For example, holding Shift and double-clicking the rectangle will create a square. Holding Shift and double-clicking the ellipse tool will create a circle. New tracking options in Mocha Pro 2023 give you an easier workflow for more difficult shots. Finding the last frame you tracked is sometimes tricky to find, especially on long shots. To help this, we've added buttons to jump to the end positions of any tracked sections. The Merge Tracks button will take any selected layers and merge them into a new layer, combining the tracks together. This means difficult tracks where several approaches are required can be combined for easier export. Layer merges work in a top-down approach, with the top layer's tracking data taking precedence over the next one down, and so on, until all tracking keys are merged. Once merged, a new layer is created, using the splines from the topmost layer. The fall-off tool for splines also applies to Power Mesh, so you can conveniently adjust multiple vertices and softly sculpt them into position. This makes it much easier to adjust many mesh points at once. The reliable and sturdy grid visualization tool is now scalable relative to the surface. If you open Viewer Preferences, you can now make the grid as large as needed without it getting in the way. We've also added an additional visualization tool called Selected Search Area, which shows a mat representing how many pixels around the current position the layer will search for when tracking. For example, if you turn off Auto and adjust the horizontal search area, the search area mat will expand, giving you an idea of how much further out Mocha will look. When working with the Just Track, you can now toggle a lock on transform points to disable them. This makes it much easier to do adjustments of multiple points over time without accidentally keyframing previous points. We've streamlined the plugin export for tracking data in some hosts. Nuke now gets the same plugin side benefits as After Effects, allowing users to generate data inside the host instead of having to copy to the clipboard or export to disk. If you only have one layer in your Mocha project, After Effects and Nuke will now automatically generate the tracking data when you press the Create button. This means you no longer need to select the layer, saving you several extra clicks. We've improved the region of interest fitting tools in the Insert module to give you a focused way to crop down the rendering ROI of an insert. This means you can do smaller surface areas that allow for greater manipulation and less problems with over-distortion. Previously, you needed to set the surface to the full frame of the source clip to get the proper distortion, such as painted freeze frames of the existing clip. But now, by clicking the Fit ROI to Surface button, it will crop the ROI to the surface bounds, making the area you want to replace fit perfectly in the scene. This cropped area will then move with the tracking data to replace the region, rather than needing to fit the surface to the source clip edges. Also in the Insert module, we've added Difference mode to the blend options to help line up inserts with the existing scene. A big change for the Remove module is the Static Scene option. Previously, if the background you were removing from didn't move, you still had to track the entire shot, wasting a lot of time. By checking the Static Scene option, you can now tell Mocha the area you're removing from doesn't need to be tracked, which makes it possible to do one layer removes for objects in the scene. All other parameters will continue to work as normal, so even if light changes within the static scene, the area will cleanly remove. And this is just some of the bigger tools we've included in this release. We've also added a lot of other small life improvements and fixes to make everyday work easier. So that's what's new in Mocha Pro 2023. All these features are designed to enhance the existing tools to make Mocha's workflow even better. As always, if you have any questions or want to learn more about the new Mocha Pro, come visit the Boris FX website at borisfx.com.